Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football, and welcome back to the Winning Drive, the prime time edition, your Thursday edition. Change it up the crew. We bring in lifetime Longhorn national champion, my man Marcus Myers joins us, and we appreciate his time. Also joining us, our own coach, former high school football coach at Vernon, Capel, Brownwood, Belton, Rotan. Also played college football at Abilene Christian, coached there as well, and was on the staff at the University of Texas for multiple head football coaches. These days, you can catch his work at ShipleyRanches.com. It's our own coach, Bob Shipley. What's going on, coach? How you doing?
Hey, CB, what's up out west, brother? Send us some cool weather. Send us some cool weather. We need it.
Oh man, you ain't lying about that, coach. It is it's still mid-October. It still feel like summer in Texas.
Man, we had my grandson over here for his birthday today, and mosquitoes ate me alive this evening.
Yeah.
Come on, now it's October.
Exactly.
Middle of October.
All the mosquitoes in the country are moving to Texas because they're like, it's the perfect weather. Perfect weather. But no, of course, the Longhorns won't be in Texas for their upcoming game. All right, they'll be in Kentucky. We'll talk about that. We got the injury report as well, so we'll start there talking about the availability report, who's available for both teams in this matchup. Your questions, comments, throw them out there. We'll try to address as many of them as we can. Super chats jump to the front of the line so you can interrupt the show at any time. Marcus, what's going on, man? How you feeling?
I'm doing good, man. I can't complain. You know, the weather in the morning hadn't been too bad now. We've been getting some
true
60s in the morning. I've been able to open my back, patio door and just let the breeze come in. So that's been all right. But y'all right, man. I'm ready for some of this heat to fully taper off. So
no, Salty Q makes a great point though. It ain't raining at all, yet the mosquitoes are still thriving. Like, how's that possible?
Yeah.
I don't even know. Like, that scientifically, they ain't supposed to work that way. So I agree with Salty Q. That is very strange.
I think they're living off my blood.
Yeah, that's what it is. You're right, Coach. They're living off that good blood, that sweet blood. They like it. All right. We'll get into a number of topics, but first, let's jump right into things, guys. Let's dive into the latest availability report, the SEC availability report for the Texas-Kentucky matchup. As you can see, there are some things that have changed specifically for Texas. You can see that a couple of players have been downgraded, I guess you can say, on the availability report yesterday. Questionable, you had Xavier Filsaime, Connor Stroh, and Murad Watson. Were now questionable. It's just Murad Watson. And you can see that two players, Connor Stroh and also Xavier Filsaime, have been now added to the out list. And Aaron Butler and Jonathan Cunningham and Cole Hudson, originally they were on yesterday's availability report as being out too. So you've added some Longhorn fair guys. And CJ Baxter remains doubtful as he was yesterday. And I think pretty much he'll end up being out too, in my opinion. But we'll hold out hope there. But I don't have much optimism as it relates to that. So, all right, guys, Marcus, I'll throw it to you first. What are your thoughts about the latest moves? We'll talk about the Kentucky side of things, but for the Longhorns, looks like two players are going to be unavailable, and the offensive line looks like it's going to be hit the hardest based on this availability report.
Yeah, man, it's interesting because it really begins to further test the depth, right? Like coming into the season prior to the Kojo injury, you felt like you were pretty well positioned to have a good 7-8 man rotation, if you will, or guys that you felt comfortable with. And that's evaporated pretty quickly. So, they're at a point now where you almost can't afford anybody else. Now, hopefully it's one of those things where it's not something that's long sustained and, you think you can get through this game and hopefully get them back next week. But that's tough to see another, lineman go down, especially when they were, granted he wasn't starting this past game, but, again, a depth piece. And as they were building out some of that continuity, same with Cole Hudson. So I think it'll certainly be a test of their depth. And with Filsaime, that was a bit surprising as well. He was, starting to see him, in some games a little bit more and was looking forward to his growth and development there. So kind of sucks to see him out. But again, hopefully in that, with each of them, it's something minor that gives them some time to recoup and bounce back.
Coach, what are your thoughts about the report overall? Offensive line specifically, because you're starting centers out in this game. I mean, if I'm Kentucky, you're starting centers out and you got another true freshman you're going to start at guard.
Yeah.
I know exactly where I need to attack.
And that's really unfortunate because I felt like Cole Hudson had his best game last week. You know, I've been very critical of this offensive line because that's what I coach and that's what I watch. You know, I mean, I watch it all, but I really, you know, when I'm sitting there watching the game on TV, I just kind of have a focus on the offensive line. I just kind of focus that whole area and see who's giving up, you know, whose guy gets loose or who misses a block, whatever. That's just the way I watch the game. And a lot of people don't pay any attention to it. They just kind of watch the ball and see where it goes. I watch the linemen, and I really was hoping – I was looking forward to watching Cole play this week because I was wanting to see him continue to progress. But it is what it is, and you know, you can't do anything about it. The good thing is it's not Georgia. Not that it's a rollover, but it is Kentucky. So to be an optimist about it, it gives us an opportunity to look at that depth that you're talking about, Marcus, in the offensive line and see what some of these young guys can do. You know, it's a little bit scary when you've had Cole, who knows all the calls. He knows where to get everybody to make sure they're in the right spot. A very intelligent leader out there. So it's going to be interesting to see. That scares me a little bit. But it also, like I said, you know, gives us an opportunity to see what we have, give those guys some game time experience to get somebody besides, you know, A&M or Georgia. And, you know, see if they can get some continuity, get things going a little bit.
Yeah. When Sark was asked about it earlier this week, talking about the offensive line and Connor Robertson having to step up, he actually seemed really confident. I guess how else would he seem? But he said he has a really good rapport with Arch. They are really close. He has been in the system. There is not a look or a call that he can make to get everybody on the same page. So he seems pretty confident that, you know, that Connor will be able to step up in that role. But like I said, I know exactly. Thank you very much for that, Matthew. I know exactly where I would attack. All right, that's exactly where I would go as the interior of the offensive line. Hold up, real quick. We got a detour just for a second. Is it CB's birthday for real? Did I miss that?
I think it was yesterday, and I think we missed it. It's either yesterday or today, but whatever it was, happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, CB.
CB clarified it was yesterday or today. I wasn't on yesterday, and I apologize if I missed it because I don't go on social media as much as I should. I spend more time on social media, especially because you got to get tweets. So do clarify if it's yesterday or today. Either way, happy B-Day, bro. I didn't know. I apologize. I should have been up to speed on that. You keep up with everybody else B-Day, and yet, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
So
he does an amazing job with that.
Great job,
like,
man.
Every year it rolls around. I'm like, dang, he remembered again. So
he remembered again. You were like, he forgot. Guy, like, man. Nah, he ain't forget. He ain't forget. So CB, whether it was yesterday or today, man. Happy B-Day or happy belated B-Day. Yeah, belated B-Day to my man CB. Well, yeah, should have shouted out to you yesterday. Like I said I wasn't on yesterday, so I didn't know, but it wasn't on social media. But happy B-Day. All right, getting back to the injury report, I will say this too. I do wonder, does this affect your game plan at all, or is it, Coach, you just go on as usual? Does this affect your game plan at all?
Yeah, I think you do. The thing about the offensive line is that they run schemes. You know, it's not like, you know, you've got zone scheme, you've got gap scheme, you've got, you know, pin and pull. You know, you've got schemes that you work with. Same with pass protection. You have standard schemes that you work with. You've got, you know, I don't know how many protections they have, 4 or 5 basic protections. And so, you know, I'm not too worried about it. I mean, I may watch the game on Saturday and go, holy cow, we need to simplify things because those guys are confused. But I think they teach in terms of concepts instead of, you know, we've got 80 plays and you have to learn all of these 80 plays. You know, it's more concepts. And so I feel like they'll be okay. I don't know that Sark would not show anything against Kentucky because of those guys that he wouldn't anyway. You know, I don't know. You know, I'm sure he probably wants to be as vanilla as he can against Kentucky and get that running game going.
Mm-hmm.
So I keep trying to have to remind myself about the, you know, in SEC play, you only get to travel 74 too. So how does that impact like who they're choosing to go where? in some of these spots, especially, being down 2 linemen. So,
well, not only that, but you've got a position move to running back, so that opens up a spot somewhere else. So, yeah, I think it's very fluid, and you have to be pretty precise about those guys you put on that plane.
All right, good stuff there, and good segue there, Coach. We might as well, since you're talking about the running back, this is C.J. Baxter. Doubtful. Like I said, I'm not optimistic that he's going to be available for this Kentucky game. And there was a big news today that was a big news earlier this week, I should say, that was confirmed by Sark, indeed, that Michael Terry will be moving from wide receiver to running back. He was an all-purpose athlete coming out of high school. Guy did everything and did it really well, by the way. But now he's coming back. I actually suggested, could this be the Wildcat? Because could some of that Wildcat stuff come back? Remember, Sark liked the Wildcat early with the Rojo and then Savion Red, and then it disappeared after that because I don't think he believed he had the type of athlete that can maximize a personnel group like that. But that's something you can throw out there with a Michael Terry who could do it well. But either way, what do you your thoughts, Marcus? I know you wanted to kind of get into this topic a little bit because you had some intriguing thoughts and ideas about it.
Yeah, I guess even before you get to that, right, like the obvious a portion of this is because Jared Gibson made the decision to transfer out. And this is my own personal opinion. I don't know if I've even shared this with you guys, man, but I've seen, different thoughts on that, right? And I think it's ultimately it's just a sign of the times, right? Like these guys have to make decisions in a different way than maybe we did. But by all I could tell, like he wasn't a malcontent. It wasn't any issue of how hard he worked. He just kind of got recruited over. He had some fumbling issues, right? And so when you look at the grand scheme of things, I think he was ultimately trying to make a decision that he felt would be best for his career. They're not blind to the fact that Derek Cooper's coming in next year, and you already have somewhat of a pecking order established, and he just hadn't been able to break through this year. So certainly wish him well, and I would like people to have a little bit more compassion for these young folks having to make some of these decisions. I mean, I don't know about any number of us have made choices, in the workplace to go somewhere else, and it's not always ideal, but if it's best for you and your family and what you see about your future, then that's what you kind of got to go with. But when you talk about Michael Terry, it's like you said, Rod, like I had to go back and look at some of his film, and like a lot of it was him at running back. And he looks like he could do it pretty well. He's been in, a college training system for a little bit now. I want to say he's like 6'2", 220-ish, somewhere in that range, 215, 220. So definitely, an option in the Wildcat. Could also even give you some options in, those two-back sets that we're always searching for in 21. And, do you motion him out and now you potentially get a matchup or, just, again, something else that guys have to think about, having that type of athlete on the field. And while he's not a Jaden Blue, it could add to some of that dynamic playmaking, some of that juice that we've been, talking about that at times seems missing, or at the very least just make, defensive coordinators have to account for someone differently. So I'm excited about his opportunity. We'll certainly see, probably come Saturday how much, he's even used, but it's something that, is another wrinkle in a tool in the kit that Sark can maybe dial into.
No, I love that because Coach, Sark says running back is the most underutilized position in the passing game on offense. And so he loves, last year, both of your running backs, last year, Wisner and Jaden Blue, both of those guys were top 10, I believe, in running back targets. Like freaky, crazy stuff. Yeah. Like in terms of Sark, how he weaponizes running backs. And if you look at last year, Jaden Blue added a vertical element to your passing game with the running back, right? He'd run that Texas route, that kind of, that he'd run that slant. It's basically kind of a slant for running backs, but first you kind of start out like you're running the wheel and then you break it back into the slant. I've heard it's called a Texas route, Coach. I don't know what you call it, but they ran that and they ran it wheel route. To perfection. I don't think anybody ran the wheel route better than Texas with Jaden Blue last season. And I wonder now, to your point, Marcus, if Michael Terry could provide that element for you, either out of two-back set or just as, another added element in the backfield too, that would be interesting. As a guy that can give you a vertical passing element to running backs, which linebackers are just ill-equipped to defend. They're not used to doing that. Sorry, no offense, Marcus.
No, you're completely right. You're completely right.
Marcus, I love the thought. And honestly, that hadn't dawned on me yet. But I would think you might want to just get him in the game, give him a few carries this week, and kind of get the defensive coaches that are opponents watching him at running back. And then when you need it, you motion him out and you get a mismatch.
Mm-hmm.
I love it, Marcus.
And he's different, right? All the other backs are, shorter backs in stature compared to him, right? I mean, if he's a legit 6'2", like that's another kind of the big body type of guy that Arch likes to go to. So it might not even be something we see till a couple games down the road, right? But to your point, Coach, you get in there, let him just get a feel for it, get him, back getting some carries and getting hit where it actually matters. And then, you got some wrinkles that you can throw in down the line.
And you got the Niblet package. Now you can have a Michael Terry package. Add some variety, some versatility, seasoning up the offense a little bit. I like it. I like that idea. All right, before we continue, let's thank one of our sponsors. Thank our friends over at Von Lane. And then we'll get back to some of your questions. Thank you to Von Lane for their continued sponsorship of Warren, Texas football. We really appreciate them. And you will appreciate them as well if you take Von Lane. I've taken it several times for business. I've taken it for personal reasons to go visit family each and every time. It's one of the most luxurious ways to travel, and I love it. And my wife has actually taken it to go visit friends and on business trips as well. And trust me, we actually partnered with them on the Texas tour with our friends over at Third Longhorn, and it was a great experience. Now my Third Longhorn friends are big fans of Von Lane, and so this fall, the Road to Football events runs right through Von Lane, whether it's Texas football we're talking about, or Dallas Cowboys, or you're talking about NFL matchups in Houston, ACL Fest, of course, which just finished up. If you're talking about the F1 race, which is coming up this weekend, you can skip the airport grind and the long drive. Instead, board in minutes, no TSA, no stress, and sink into one of just 22 oversized seats that recline 140 degrees. Fire up the Wi-Fi, plug in your laptop, and just lean back with a cold beer or cocktail while your attendant takes care of the rest. Von Lane is booking now through the holidays, so secure your seat for football weekends and Thanksgiving or Christmas travel as well. Reserve your spot today at vonlane.com. That's VONLANE.com, and use the promo code OTF25 to save $20 off your first ride with Von Lane. Von Lane, a private jet on wheels. All right, let's real quick before we finish up with the injury report. We just talked about a couple of aspects of it on the Kentucky side. Although and there are a few guys that have been on. They had 7 guys actually that were listed as out last week, but it's not the same 7 for them. But I thought the most notable for them, Jaden Smith, who is listed as probable, I believe. He's one of the young DBs they really like. I mean, I think he had 24 snaps versus Ole Miss. He got hurt versus South Carolina early in that game. He's coming back. He's a redshirt freshman, but they really like him. And also, Abaselm has been upgraded for them. He was questionable, have been upgraded now to probable, but he hasn't played. He's an offensive lineman that hasn't played much this season. 2 guys that weren't on the injury report at all, which is really good news for Kentucky, actually, because they're starters and now they're back. Because they had the bye week, remember? So we'll get into that and how that can be advantageous to Kentucky. DJ Waller, he's a DB, and he's going to be fully available based on reports. And one of their starting O-linemen, Alex Walschlager, hope I got that right. He's a transfer from Bowling Green, I believe. Grant, and he's was a projected starter on the offensive line, and he's going to be back. So they got a lot of good news coming back for Kentucky, especially coming off of a bye week. All right. Let's get to a couple of questions, and then I didn't even realize this. I was doing research on Texas, Kentucky, and then found a wild connection. I'm sure some of y'all already know this, but I know some of y'all don't because I didn't know this, but we'll get into it. Okay. How about this one first from Arched Horn?
Good teaser, Rod. Good teaser.
No, I didn't know this at all. And I was doing research. I was like, what the? And then it made
like,
sense.
Rod gonna make us wait? Come on,
yeah. Hey, right. That's that radio in me back in the day. That radio in me. All right. Arched_Horns. Thank you for the super chat. Says, does Terry have the agility, quick burst, and vision to be a good running back? Always thought of him as a tight end, but he was the number 2 ranked athlete. It's a great point.
Right there.
Marcus, you watched it. You just watched him. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, man, like it's tough to tell, like, what is he going to be long term, right? Because he's still, by all intents, like, he's still a pup. He's still growing. He's still going to have more time in the program. So, but I mean, just off of some of his film, man, like, he looks pretty dynamic, and so I could just kind of see him using him as a Swiss Army knife of sorts. At the moment, he's certainly different. He's not. I wouldn't compare him to a Jaden Blue by any means, but I wouldn't necessarily look at him as a tight end either. I don't really know the exact long-term fit for him, but I know there's some good RB clips of him where, he makes some cuts in the hole. He'll make a guy miss. And I mean, you see right there, he's kind of tough to catch. So, I mean, to me, I'd give him a shot at it and see what happens.
Yeah, no, I like him. Coach, what are your thoughts? I mean, he runs a little high for me for a running back, but I've seen running backs run high, end up going to the league. Some guys, they just really refine their ability to be able to run high like that with really high pad level. But I do think he's dynamic. I do think he's got the agility and footwork to be a running back. I have him as a Kyle Juszczyk. I've been saying that from day one. Kyle Juszczyk, the 49ers do everything. Fullback, H-back, tailback. Sometimes they put him in the slot. Sometimes they put him at tight end. Like, they just move him around. I think that's more how I would use Michael Terry and how I visualize weaponizing him. But this is kind of part of it. You got to move him in different positions so he can find ways to master different positions. Yeah, exactly. They gave Derrick Henry a shot. Derrick Henry, trust me, You know that there's some people that want to move him to DN or something like that, coach. It just makes it like, nah, dude, you're a DN, you're a D lineman. And yet, I mean, Nick freaking Saban, right? That's why he's the GOAT.
I like even what Arch Torrance just followed that up with, even said like a Debo Samuel type, so I can see a little bit of that too. So
I like it. Coach, thoughts?
This may sound crazy, but he appears to me to be more of an NFL running back than he does a college running back. Does that make sense?
I follow you. Yeah.
But, yeah, because college running backs are more scat backs, and they do a lot of jicky stuff with them. NFL, you can't jack around with those defenses. You got to have guys that can go forward, and if you can get this guy to get his pad level down at contact and going through the line of scrimmage, he seems to me to be more of a NFL type running back. Because he's not real elusive. He's not gonna, I'm not saying he's not gonna shake somebody, but he's, he doesn't give you the things that some of the running backs we've had in the past here give you. Missing tackle, having the ability to make tacklers miss and things because of his quickness and his aggressive cuts and things like that. But he's a guy that certainly, can get you, if he can get his pad level down, he's a guy that certainly gets you extra yards. And in the NFL, that's what it's all about, just getting 1 or 2 extra yards with a big running back like that. So that's kind of interesting. Yeah.
No, I like it. I mean, at this point, if you're looking for a way for him to contribute or find a role on the team, Sark's big about that, right? Finding a role to contribute. He found one for Arch with the Arch package last year. He's finding one for Nibley. Like, he's big about, all right, we'll find a way for you to contribute. And I think this is kind of, you just brought it up with the news about Jerry Gibson, with the injuries at the running back position, and then the inexperience at the running back position. The other guys you trying to get in there are inexperienced young guys. It's a chance for him to potentially get some snaps there. Or contribute in some way. So as people bring up Rojo as a Roshan Johnson as a guy that switched positions. Also Rojo could block. That's a good point. Can he block? Jeremiah brings up. I don't know. That's a great question. If he can block, I think that would expedite him getting on the field. I don't know what kind of blocker he is. I will admit that. There's not.
He certainly has trained to be a good blocker.
Yeah,
and he better have some skills if tight ends in his future.
That's true. You gotta have a physical mindset. You're gonna play tight end.
Yeah.
So all right, good question. All right, another super chat here, and then I'll get into. I promise I'll get to that story that I was like, what the? I'll get to that. I promise. Actually involves. I won't get too deep into there. Justin super chat here first. Thoughts on Baxter returning next year, hopefully for a full healthy season. I'm hoping he comes back. Thank you, Justin, for the super chat. Yeah, there's even been speculation that, he should redshirt this year. I heard people having that discussion. He's not. Let me be clear. He's not, and that is not coming from him or anybody. I'm talking about fans having that conversation. Like, oh, he's just redshirt and just bring him back fresh next year because we're already halfway point of the season. Like, this is it, halfway point. And he hasn't had much impact. And I don't think he's going to play in Kentucky yet. So, and then after that, you're talking about, I don't think that's for him a reality, but I think he's going to try to contribute. I think that's kind of what Sark's, the mindset he has for all the guys, like, where can you help? Where can you contribute? And he just missed a damn season. Guys, trust me, for a player, that's, that, Marcus, coach, that, man. You're missing multiple seasons like that back to back. That is it.
I agree, Justin. I think he should come back because money is not as big a deal now as it used to be because these guys are making a lot of money. He can come back. In fact, they might sweeten the pot for him to come back because how high is he going to be drafted after missing 2 seasons?
Not high.
It's just the smartest thing for him would be, unless he comes back in a couple of weeks and just tears it up like an All-American for the last half of the season and through the playoffs.
Yeah.
But I agree I think Justin, I hope he comes back too. And I think that would be the wisest thing for his future. It's not like he's just going to college for room and board anymore and books, tuition.
And it's different position, but like it kind of reminds me of, Whittington was kind of injury plagued for a while. And then, he came back for that final year and was able to put on film that, he could stay healthy through an entire season. And now you look, they got a couple injuries with the Rams and he's, going to be starting this weekend. So I think, I'm with you, Coach, and with the super chat there. Like it seems like if he's wanting to put himself in the best position for the next level, he would need to, do his best to get through a full season unscathed. So I'm hopeful that he can still bounce back and be able to contribute this year because he certainly does bring, a different skill set than some of the guys have, especially when you talk about blocking in the passing game.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. I think he should definitely come back. I mean, right now his NFL prospects are at least getting drafted high. Right. Are not very likely just because of the injuries. So, and like Coach said, you can make money now in college.
What's a rookie-based contract nowadays? Anyway.
Oh, you talking about like just for what round? It depends on where you draft.
Well, no, I'm just talking about a base rookie contract, like 7th round, free agent, whatever.
That's a good question. I think base salary. Salary is like $500,000. Let me go. Oh, there it is. Matthew's the best. Is it? Eyesight. We old, man. You gotta.
Yeah, I can't read it.
I said, Matthew, we old, man. You gotta. Thank you, Matthew. We appreciate you.
Okay, that's first round, so we'd have to go down pretty far for him, probably.
Yeah. Like I say, it depends on.
It depends on where you are.
But Coach, it gets better with every CBA. Like there you go.
So is the next column the per year?
The first year, yeah.
865.
That's an overall contract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks like the base is about 800.
The next column to the right.
Your base is about like you said,
be the base annual salary. And
that's,
I would think he wouldn't be too far off of that if he stayed.
Yeah. You make a roster, you're gonna be making 800 something G's. Like at the base level. If you can make a roster, and then but practice squad, which I was on a practice squad a couple of times. Practice squad, you can make good money too. I mean, a practice squad, they might cut that in half. I don't know what the new CBA is, but your practice squad, they pay you per week. But I think overall they probably are maybe half of that, or probably like 350 to 400. I mean, still good. you're still living pretty good. It's just not that. I mean, you're still making more than, basically more than 90% of the country. So you're still good.
Yeah, but you guys know this. You got the other side of the argument there that says, man, the quicker you get to your second contract, the better off you are.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
There's no doubt he has the ability to play in the NFL.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt.
I still think back to what it was. Who was it? It was Saban. When, before that one season, he was talking about, he was the best running back that they saw. Yes. And that was his freshman year, so he's very well thought of. And I mean, even prior to this year, I think certainly we're much closer to it than the national types, but a lot of people still had him as like a first-round pick, in mock drafts for next year. And we were all kind of like, well, pump the brakes. He's still, on his way back. But, he has the build for it and, kind of the prototypical everything you would want a guy to have. He just has to be able to show he can stay healthy.
Oh, yeah. No, I totally agree. He's NFL back. I hope they don't just convince him to leave and work for the same contract, which he can do, by the way. But that's, but maybe I don't know how much money he's made at the college level either. He might have made enough money where he's go, I'm good.
I think he's doing all right, man.
I think he can go. I can work for the second contract. That's why, remember, this season in the NFL, they had a hard time signing second-round picks for the first time in NFL history. Yeah. Like second-round picks were like, they were holding out and wouldn't sign. NFL was like, what the hell's going on? Part of the reason was, and it actually started with the Texans, but I won't go down that rabbit hole. Part of it was these guys got more money now. And they literally remember back in the day, it's like, no, I need this money right now. I need it right now. I need that signing bonus. I need to sign on down the line. And because the second round picks, basically, the guaranteed money gets cut in half. That's why some teams prefer second round picks over first round picks. Right. Because they were like, no, second round picks, it's I can get first round talent for half the price. Pretty much.
But Rod, so but once they declare for the draft, I thought they couldn't come back to college, and then I read something about a guy from A&M.
Yeah, they can.
They can. Yeah, they were floating like extreme scenario. If he were to try and go and challenge, all kind of stuff and sue, almost kind of like a Maurice Claret kind of scenario back in the day. Mm-hmm. It wasn't really realistic, Coach. I think that was more for kind of clicks and. The making it kind of sensationalized story, especially when you're dealing with like the history of the Bengals and how bad they are about like just paying their guys. So
they're cheap. They're cheap, notoriously. But I remember that story though, Coach. But it was part of that. It was a hard time just trying to sign. I guess signing players now, period, coming out because guys have more leverage because they have more money. Used to be your agent had to support you and give you money until you negotiate your contract. Nowadays, these guys got their own money. Yeah, they got their own money. I'm coming to America reference there. All right, all right. This is a story. Here's a story. All right, Texas, Kentucky related story. So somebody asked me, while I was just hanging out talking to a Longhorn fan. They were like, "Hey, is Matthew McConaughey going to go to the game?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And they was like, "Well, I thought he wanted to go to the game because of his dad." And I was like, "Well, what's up with his dad?" He's like, "Well, his dad played football for Kentucky back in the day." Matthew McConaughey's dad.
No way.
Yeah, he did. This comes from the Lexington Herald Leader, so official, right? Not just some rumor on the internet. It said April 2nd, 1949, Lexington Herald reported that Charlie Bentley or Jim McConaughey would start at right end for the blue team in the spring scrimmage. He played in the 49 season opener in the coverage of Kentucky's season opening 71-7 win over Mississippi Southern. The Lexington Herald listed Jim McConaughey among the UK sophomores who made their varsity debut. Now, he apparently left Kentucky, and he didn't letter there, but he lettered at Houston. He lettered at U of H. And apparently in 51 and 52, lettered there and was drafted by the Packers in 53. Jim McConaughey was selected in the 27th round.
Wow, that's a lot of rounds.
Yeah, but back in the day, everybody get drafted back then, Coach. So I didn't even know that I didn't know that. Apparently, that's common knowledge.
You give me enough rounds, I would have been drafted.
Yeah, there you go. Boom. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
So and played for Bear Bryant. There you go. I didn't know that at all. And so maybe he's going to go to the game. I mean, that would make sense that he would go to this game. Why wouldn't you? This is like is your university, and then your dad played there too.
Well, it's he's always looking for a chance to
promote
himself. As all stars do, but it would be a great story for Kentucky, Texas game for the reporters to go to the sideline and ask him about it. That'd be very newsworthy.
Yeah, he might be. I don't know if he's filming some movie or something now. I don't know, but if he's not, then take the PJ, man. You didn't hear this at Chipotle. No, I wanted to get it from a source that was reputable, and I got it from an actual news source these days. Which I'm not hating on other sources, but somebody brought it up to me. So I'm thinking, and he's the grandfather. James is the grandfather of the culture. You're right, but I didn't know, and I did know this though. Remember Matthew McConaughey wrote the book. Was it Green Lights or something like that?
Yeah, I got it right over here on my bookshelf.
You got it? Okay. In that book, didn't he admit that his dad passed away
I think
while having intimate relations with his mother?
Yeah.
That's just called living. Livin, baby.
Livin.
Hey man. If you're not gonna go in your sleep, I guess that's the maybe the next best way to go.
I mean, all right.
No, I would rather die like that than go in my sleep. What are you talking about? No, I want to go like that.
I wonder if his mom said, all right.
I don't want to go in my sleep. I want to go that way. To hell with go. Of course, Matthew McConaughey's dad passed away that way. That's why. No, I want to go like that. I don't want to go in my sleep. No, I want to go like that. That's the way to go.
No. Let me just you want to go when you rolled over and you're trying to go to sleep. That's the matter.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Bobby watching this.
That's wisdom right there. That's wisdom.
Yeah. You don't want to die too early.
Oh man,
man
love that morning about 6 a.m. As soon as they finished. So, Coach, yes, they finished. That's all they were done. Yeah.
Oh, this is hilarious.
Oh, wow.
All jokes aside, I do wonder. I've been noticing in the lead up to games, they've been switching up who does the voiceovers. I guess this will be a good one to have him do it. Like, I don't think he's done one this year. I've heard Glenn Powell do one. A. Ross did one. I think Overshown did one. I don't know.
Wow. Okay. No, I didn't know.
You're right, Stephen.
Someone says, J. Dobbs said the late Richard Pryor said his dad died the same way.
These jokes are wild. The chat is on fire.
Livin. No, that's good for him. All right. So I didn't know that was the case. So I just want to throw it out there. All right. I want to hit a sponsor, and I don't want to make it an awkward transition, but let's go through it anyway. Let's take our friends over at Bingham's Spirit. See, that's kind of a natural transition if you're thinking about it. If you're thinking that deep about it. Thank you to our friend Ryan Bingham. And his fantastic bourbon, created by Grammy and Oscar-winning artist Ryan Bingham. For years, Ryan turned down offers to just put his name on a bottle. He instead wanted a bourbon he could be proud of, one that stayed true to his Texas roots and where the music comes from. That's why he built Bingham's from the ground up, a Texas certified whiskey made with 100% Texas-grown grains, distilled and aged in the searing Texas climate for a bold, unmistakable flavor. From the hands of local Texas farmers to the barrel to the glass, every drop is a tribute to the land, the craft, and the people who shape it. Bingham's Bourbon, proof that Texas makes a damn good bourbon, available now across the great state of Texas. Find details at binghamspirits.com. Yeah, I know. It is a family show, so I apologize for getting off the rails there with Matthew McConaughey's the story about his dad. All right. I got a couple of questions for you guys that I want to get you guys' thoughts about. Halfway point of the season, so we got a good sample size of the team so far. Question I have for you, or at least one of them. Who you think should be playing more? Who do we need to see more of at the halfway point? Like at this point, like you're like, no, they need to play this guy more. He's just that
I'm going to say the freshman receivers. I would like to see those guys more. I just think maybe there's something we're missing there. I don't know, if those guys aren't maybe performing in practice, but there's 3 of those guys that can go, at least 3 of them that can go. I would love to see an opportunity for them to get a little more playing time.
Jeremiah says, can we not see some freshman wide receivers run some down the route? So, Coach,
no doubt. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. I mean, right now, Dalen McCutcheon is the only freshman wide receiver that's penetrated the circle of trust.
Right.
For Sark. So,
let's see more of Dalen.
That's true.
Yeah. Because he hasn't disappointed. Every time he's been in there, he's coming up with a catch.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. Marcus, what are your thoughts? Who do you want to see more?
To coach's point, I mean, it would kind of even stand to reason now that you even see Aaron Butler's out. Like, he was one of the guys that was getting a little bit of run a little earlier in the season. That's one less receiver that's available. So, but maybe it balances out. You're trying to get Mosley some more reps now too, but I would love to see what those guys have. And then, I mean, if you flip to the other side of the ball, for me, it would be Lance Jackson and Brad Spence. They've both proven that they can make plays in small.
You'll see that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right about that. Honestly, those two were top of my list.
Yeah.
It really was. It was top of my list. And just look, here's the pressure rates. I went and looked at just pressure rates. So pass rush snaps. All right, pass rush snaps, and then the amount of pressure. So I just took the amount of pressures, divide them by the amount of pass rush snaps. Yeah, we need to see Brad Spence more. And the interesting is that we'll talk about that Hefty Taco, because I think there's a reason we're not seeing injuries get the ball more. Tight ends need more touches, and maybe it's just it's something that's for Sark. Maybe it's intentional and deliberate. But just real quick, Brad Spence. This is Pro Football Focus, so get on them if you got a question with the numbers. They got Brad Spence over 25% pressure rate. Like when he's rushing, over 25% of the time, they have him when he's rushing the passer. 25% of the time, he's causing the pressure. They got Colin Simmons at 16.5%. They got Lance Jackson at 19%. To Marcus's point too, they got him applying a lot of pressure.
That kind of makes sense though, if you think about they're getting fewer snaps than Colin.
Yeah,
right? Colin's typically getting more attention than them, so that kind of stands to reason. But it's just, again, if you're trying to extrapolate, if you're doing that well in your limited snaps, that's showing that you're doing your job damn near every time you get on the field, right?
Yeah.
So I want to see more of that, to see how they look with a few more snaps. And I imagine they've got to have something. I heard you mention it, Coach. I can't see how those guys performed last weekend and not give them a shot.
Oh, absolutely. And somebody mentioned James Simon. He's another guy I'd love to see more of.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. Yeah, because basically it might come down to who runs the outside zone the best of those backup running backs. Because without Cedric Baxter, they lose some of the oomph in their power gap scheme. Trey Weiser can still run it, no disrespect, but he is really good at the outside zone. So that's what they beat Oklahoma with again for the second year in a row. And I think they may lean back on that. And so if James Simon's the best at running it, I think he might be the guy. If Clark's the best at running it, then he might be that third guy in that rotation at running back. But yeah, some of these pressure numbers are insane. They got Anthony. This is mine, since you did a great job, Marcus and Coach, taking a couple of guys' options that were on my list. They need to see Anthony Hill, but on the edge more.
Yeah,
Anthony Hill rushing the passer more. They got him with a 18% pressure rate, which is. Hell, that's not bad at all. And that's not even with him being on the edge a lot. Put him on the edge more. So the pressure rates say that Texas does have an elite group of edge defenders and pass rushers. But I will say the sacks,
right,
specifically, don't necessarily translate. Right? They only got they got 16 sacks, something like that.
Yeah,
they're not on the pace for 40. They're not on the pace for having as many sacks they had last year. And that's kind of a problem. They should be at 40 plus sacks as a team. But last year, they did get hot late.
Is some of that a product of coming into the year, everybody hearing so much about the defense, and so going into games with game plans of, all right, let's stay in 12, let's get the ball out quick. Like, I feel like last game was one of the few times all year you've really seen a team multiple times take deep drops and have a quarterback hold it, long enough for the guys to get home. I don't know if it's a mixture of both, but it felt like, Mateer was one of the few quarterbacks that wasn't as interested in getting it out quick. And that gave our guys, a bit more of time to get home. But I don't know. I could be wrong.
No, you're not wrong. And I'll tell you what, I was watching that game again, and it's also a little troubling because we'll talk about this with Kentucky. Because the next question I kind of have is, Kentucky had a bye week. So, that's kind of, what did Florida do with their bye week? Right? Came out very well prepared. What could they throw at Texas that now they have 6 games of a sample size? Or are there any concepts they could throw at Texas offensively or defensively that have given Texas some problems or have been problematic for them so far? And one of the things go coach, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, because of Mark Stoops and his connection with Oklahoma, he probably has, the backbone in Venable's office and got all their stuff pregame and postgame after the game.
Yep.
And said, if we could do it again, we would do this differently. We would do this differently. We thought they would do this, but they were doing this. Or in our breaking down all their film, this is what we saw. We just maybe weren't good enough at a position to stop what they were doing or whatever. And if we could do it again, we'd do this or we'd do that. That's what I think. I think they've taken a good 2 weeks at least of looking at our weaknesses and figuring out how they can exploit those weaknesses with the bat phone to Oklahoma to give them a little extra juice.
And what is interesting about what you said too, Coach, is I listened to Venable's post-game presser, and maybe it was just me like trying to nitpick at something, right? But like when he was talking, he was like, he said something to the effect of like, Texas did everything we thought they were going to do. Like there wasn't anything formation-wise or, there weren't any things, personnel groupings that threw us off. We just didn't execute. And so like, I kind of like took a little bit of umbrage to that. I kind of was like, what are you trying to say here? But if that is the case, then to your point, like it's somewhat of a element of like, hey, well, here's kind of the blueprint. And had we executed better in some of these spaces, now the flip side of that is Kentucky doesn't have the same front seven and the same players that OU had to give some of that trouble. So, you have to maybe do something a little bit different. And, Florida was able to do something different, but they also were able to, pull a Dallas Wilson out of bubble wrap, and Kentucky doesn't have that. So, I think they're going to try to do a version of what they've seen all the teams be successful in doing. But I think if we're able to just kind of build on what you did last week, it should be more than enough. And the thing we talked about a ton about is, protecting the ball, not putting it in harm's way, not getting behind the chains by shooting yourself in the foot. I think all of that is going to matter a lot more than anything Kentucky does personally. So,
no, I agree. That's a good point. I do think that Kentucky, they'll use the bye week because I've always said it because I agree with Coach. I think the Stoops family is on a text chain. And I think Lincoln Riley's on that joint with Brent Venables. And I think a lot of the talk is trash in Texas. And hey, can you give me some guests? So I do believe that, he probably is getting some help. Why wouldn't he?
And that's compounded by the fact that Texas is one of the games Kentucky had circled on their schedule because everybody knew coming into the season, Kentucky wasn't going to be in contention for the championship, SEC championship. They just weren't. But to keep their program going, recruiting, and keep the coaching staff in good standings, they've got to pull some upsets. Yeah. And so Texas is one of the ones that they have circled. Okay. Mm-hmm. But they've also got a star by it because it's before an open week.
Yeah.
Then they also have a star on the other side of it because it's a home game.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at those things, and this is one I think that they probably circled early in when the schedule came out and said, look, we ain't going to probably win the championship, but there's some games that we can kind of redeem ourselves a little bit. If we can knock off a team at home after a bye week, it sets up perfectly for Kentucky.
Well, and to your point, Coach, you can add a few more stars, right? They went on the road to a South Carolina and to a Georgia where you could potentially get a win like that and lost. And then, Rod, you like to point this out, and something we didn't think about enough prior to the Florida game, they lost in Austin last year. Mm-hmm. So, they have their own version of a revenge factor of, this is my opportunity to put something on tape. The rest of our season probably isn't going to go fully the way we want it to, but if I have any aspirations for the NFL or, anything of the sort, this is prime, opportunity to do just that.
Yeah. I think they're going to take some little bits of the Oklahoma game plan and some of the Florida game plan. They'd be crazy not to. Like you said, they don't have the athletes to do a lot, to do everything that those programs are able to do against Texas. But I do think conceptually there's some things that may work. They're also promoting that their offense could gel this week potentially because they had the bye week. They got a new quarterback. Remember, Calzada started the season. Now they got Cutter Foley, the guy who actually played against Texas in Austin. He got some, and he actually made some plays against that Texas defense last season. But they got, transfers, first-year transfers at tailback. 2 of them at wide receiver. Got 1 at left tackle. Got another at left guard. Got another at right tackle. So they're thinking we just need, we had some good quality opponents we played, and maybe this is the week now after the halfway point that we finally start to gel. You don't want that to be against Texas. That was happening with Florida. Florida jailed against Texas. Like, how the hell does that happen? That's what you want to avoid. So that's why trap game, people throw out that term all the time. They're hoping they're a trap game right now for Texas.
They have a young wide receiver that's pretty good too. I can't remember his name, but he has like a weird, it's like a running back number.
No, you're right. Actually,
I can't think of his name.
Sark brought him up too. Actually, Sark was very complimentary of him, and he's in my notes. Kendrick Law. I said, boy,
yeah,
Kendrick Law.
That's it.
What number? What number is he? Do you know?
He's like 20 or 21, 20 something.
Yeah, he's their top receiver.
I think somebody said in the chat,
wow.
22. I think he's number 22. Yeah.
Wow. Bob Hayes, Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
One of the greatest receivers to ever play in the NFL, number 22.
Old school, baby. Old school. See, some people don't even get that reference because they Googling it right now.
They need to. They need to watch little Bob Hayes.
Yeah, I do. All right, let's thank another sponsor before we move on here. Let's thank our friends over at South Point Dodge, and we'll dive into a couple of more questions as we approach the end of our live stream. But you can score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point with our friends over at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock right now, including the all-new 2025 Ram 1500. Get the real deal today and drive away in the all-new Ram 1500, proven to last. Plus, right now, you get employee incentive pricing. That's their fancy way of saying you pay what the employees pay right now at South Point Dodge. That's right, folks. You get the employee discount. You won't find a better deal than that, I assure you, than our friends over at South Point Dodge. Whether you need a car, truck, trade in, something new, something used, our friends at South Point Dodge are Austin's automotive everything. So go see them today off of I-35 or go online at southpointdodge.com. All right. Appreciate our friends there at South Point Dodge for sponsoring on Texas football and sponsoring the winning drive. All right. I got one other question for you guys actually before, and then we'll dive into a couple of more questions here in the chat or from the chat. But the last question, with the Oklahoma formula to win was a little different for Sark, right? We talked about this in the post game. We talked about it all throughout the week. No deep balls, right? No deep shots downfield. Your average depth of target was considerably lower than it had been all season long, even though Arch is great with the deep passes. He took the points, field goals a lot of the time, right? Decided to take the points, or at least even if it didn't work out, Sark, going for field goals is something Longhorn fans have been critical of him for a while, not taking those points. You also had, I think, him trying to get his young quarterback into a rhythm with some screen game early on and short intermediate throws. So kind of the question is, does the outside zone seems to be the identity, or at least against Oklahoma, it was the identity of the run game, and we really hadn't had an identity in the run game for Texas. Is that specific to Oklahoma, or does that carry over to Kentucky? Is the question I have. Because it made sense against Oklahoma. You get your quarterback killed against a team that leads the country in sacks, tackles for loss, and, havoc. So you want to get the ball out of your quarterback's hands real quick. You like to, get the screen game going, get the run game going to also neutralize the pass rush. With Kentucky, they don't present those types of problems. So do we see the offense go back to what it was prior to the Oklahoma game? Is the question.
I hope not. Please. I hope not. Yeah. I think, Rod, I hope and I pray that we're just now figuring out who we are as a football team, mm-hmm. and what we can do. And how do you keep your quarterback from getting hit in the jaw every time he drops back almost, And so I think it's just I'm hoping that it is he's kind of figuring out that recipe for success, and he's tried the old way, and it wasn't going to work. And so let's throw a little dash of this, a little cup of this, a little shot of this, and let's see if we can come up with something that fits our personnel better. I think our game plan against Oklahoma fit our personnel much better than any game plan we've had up to this point in the season. So for us to go back and revert back to what we were doing, the old saying, keep doing what you've always done, you keep getting what you've always gotten. And so why would you not build upon what you've already established, beating an undefeated ranked team by a decent margin?
Yeah.
Why would you change that?
Well, and I think it helps to carry a lot of that over too, because, kind of as the coach's point, you saw that you had some success in the things you were doing. And some of what I noticed in the game too was like, by controlling the game in the fashion that they did, it seemed like Mateer was pressing. And for all the hype that he had, if you look back on some of like his Washington State film, he had a tendency to give the ball up from time to time. And we've seen Bolio do that too. If you get down, sometimes you have this tendency, I think, as a quarterback that has that style of play to feel like you have to make the plays now. And so if you can get up on them a little early and control the game, start leaning on them in that second half, you can pressure their team into starting to make some mistakes, right? Because now they feel like, okay, we can't do the 3 yards in a cloud of dust. We're down 10 points here, right? We have to do something to make a big play. And I think that's where you see, hell, we should have had 5-6 interceptions last week. I don't know if Boley's that far off of the same type of quarterback that is willing to, kind of chunk it up there if the running game isn't working. So I think if you have that kind of complementary style of ball, it helps your defense as well.
Yeah, no, they want if Seth McGowan can get their running game going, because he's pretty damn good and he's physical. He's good. He actually transferred from Oklahoma, didn't he?
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
He was at OU at one point.
Yeah. If he's the real deal. I actually like him as a player. He's averaging 5.5 yards per rush. If he gets the run game going, then they could present some problems if he gets them ahead of the chains. So that's going to be the big test. To me, Oklahoma didn't have any running backs like this guy. He's closer to what you saw in a Jaden Baugh. Physical guy. I think he's got a chance to play in the league. And Cutter Boley, remember you saw him last year. He's mobile. He can move around, and he can make some plays on the vertical ball. He likes the vertical shots downfield. When he came against Texas last year, he started chunking that thing downfield against Texas, and he can keep plays alive. So I expect them to move the pocket with him with some boot and screen game, and they're going to run 4 verts against Texas. Why? Because Oklahoma did it, and John Mateer, guys watching the film, he just missed. He just didn't see a couple of guys that was streaking.
Yeah.
That if he'd have hit him, touchdown. Happened a couple of times. I think the biggest plays a lot of single high, and they were stressing that safety. And if he leans one way, and so if you can look him off for long enough, and John Mateer wasn't doing it, there was some schemed open throws. And I guarantee you Kentucky's going to try to get that early. Kentucky had 4 20-plus yard plays against Georgia and against South Carolina with Cutter Boley as the quarterback. Guys, all of them were within the first 15 plays. They were all on the script. So watch the script. Yeah. They're good at scripting. After that, they're not as good.
Because that's what I was just looking at, Rod, because I was thinking of what you were talking about with McGowan. And when you look at what they were averaging per carry in that game, against South Carolina, 2.63, and against Georgia, 2.05 yards a carry, right? So they had some early success, and then Georgia and South Carolina were both like, nope, we're shutting all this down. So, I think you got to, hopefully have kind of that same mindset. And if they do make a play early, you come back, snuff them out pretty quick so that their crowd can't get into it.
Yep, no doubt. All right, let's thank our final sponsor of the evening. I think our friends over at IP Vanish, we appreciate them being a part of the Owen Texas football family. Nothing kills game day like a blackout or a blocked live stream. IP Vanish VPN keeps your connection private so you can bypass restrictions and watch securely, even on public Wi-Fi. And there's more. With IP Vanish Advanced, you also get a secure browser that blocks trackers, malware, and viruses, plus 1 terabyte of cloud storage to back up your files. That means your streaming stays private private, your browsing is protected, and your files are always safe. Right now, On Texas Football listeners can save 83%, just a little over $2 a month for all-in-one protection. Go to ipvanish.com/On Texas Football. That's ipvanish.com/On Texas Football, or follow the link in the description of this episode. Thank you very much to our friends over at IP Vanish. All right, couple of questions before we end tonight's live stream. How about this one from Jeremiah? Says, as a coach, how do you get Texas up for this game? How are you motivating them after such a big win last week? That is a concern. How do they handle success? Because they haven't handled success really well so far this season. Coach, what are your thoughts? Oh, I think you muted, Coach.
I think Sark answered that last week, when he said he's talking to his guys and saying every game from here on out is a conference championship, every game. And I would think that that's emphasized all week long, that, guys, we have left ourselves in a situation where we have no room for error. We have to play every game like it's the conference championship, and we've got to play to the ceiling of our ability every game, regardless of whether it's Kentucky, Vanderbilt, whoever it is. We've got to play at our level, because that's what they've done to themselves. They've gotten themselves in that situation, and there's not much room for error. I'm not saying you can't win another game, lose another game and still get in. You could probably still get in the playoffs, but I think Sark's already addressing that, and he started it last week.
You're right. You said treat it like an SEC championship game. Another one here from Jack says, why wasn't Brad Spence used in the Florida game? We don't know why Brad Spence wasn't used more earlier. I haven't heard anything about that. I actually asked, I think I asked CJ that. I think I asked Jerry Hamilton that too. I'm not sure, because he looks really good when he's in there. And it seemed like they wanted to, like they found a role for him in the Oklahoma game. Marcus, they found a specific role for him, and that's the case going forward. I want to see more of that dude. He's impressive.
I agree. I have no clue why he wasn't used more, but I think again, it's all in how you respond, right? So when he had an opportunity coming off of a game where I'm sure he thought he could have made a difference, he came out and did it. And so I think once you show your coaches that, then they now continue to give you opportunities. I would be pretty shocked if we didn't see him, continue to get more reps or be used in situations where he can make an impact.
All right. Good stuff there. All right. Thank you, guys. Burn Orange Horn says, are the Florida game flaws still there? The Florida game is going to hunt us the rest of the season, guys. And I mean, not mean the team, I mean fans.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to see the team for what they are without thinking about that game. It's almost like when you're in a relationship with, a certain person. We're in a relationship with Texas football, right? We all got this relationship going on. And when a person violates your trust or they do something that is very uncharacteristic, it's hard to see them the same way again, right? He's like, I just can't see you. It's hard to see this Texas team the same way after that Florida loss, because they just got manhandled on the lines of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, and we're not used to seeing that. And so I think for the offense, they're more of a work in progress. For the defense, I truly think outlier. They just got whipped, and they don't get whipped. You can get beat, and guys can make plays on you. They got whipped in that game. PK's D-line and got whipped in like 2 years, guys, like that. Yeah. Arkansas, I think, was the last team to whip them like that, right? To whip them like that. So I defense, I'm going outlier. Offense, that's a work in progress. That's in my opinion. But we shall see. We shall see. All right. Thank you guys for the super chats and the questions. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Matthew. Matthew's the real MVP, twisting and tweaking the dials behind the scenes. Thank you, Coach, for all the wisdom and the levity. Thank you as well, Marcus. Great job, as always. Appreciate all of your hard work. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to South Point Dodge. Thank you to southpointdodge.com. Thank you to Von Lane, vonlane.com. Use that code OTF25. You'll save $20 off your first ride with Von Lane. Thank you to Bingham's Bourbon. We appreciate them as well, and IP Vanish. If we missed any of your questions, you got something that you really got to get off your chest, you can direct them to the gentleman at Coffee and Football bright and early tomorrow morning, Jerry Hamilton and Bobby Burton, about 8:15. They'll be there for you. And we got tomorrow's live stream, and that'll be at 3 o'clock. And that'll be a fantastic live stream as well for your Friday live stream, getting you ready for the weekend. Once again, happy birthday to CB. Sorry we missed it. It was on Tuesday, so we are way belated. We appreciate you, brother, and appreciate all you guys out there there for watching and for listening and for helping us build this OTF family. For Marcus and for Coach and for Matthew, I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Until next time, hook 'em horns.
Hook 'em.